Welcome to Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, business continuity, disaster planning, crisis management, emergency management, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. Today, I wanted to talk about a recent report that was released about the Rogers outage across Canada on July 8th in 2022. The summary report was released just a little while ago, so I thought, oh, interesting, let's have a review and find out what some of the causes were. And surprise, surprise, some of them are mighty familiar, and I'm sure you may have uh, experienced some of these or read this in the headlines before with other outages and organizations. There were no real surprises. The same old, same old. Or let's actually talk about quite a few of the bits. There's several here that I've scribbled down in my notes here. And the first one is they put all their eggs in one basket. So if anything went wrong, everything was going to go wrong. All the mobile networks and the physical networks for television and internet and everything else was all on one network. So if one went down, it was all going down. It's now I'm not a techie guy, so I probably said that incorrectly. And I know there's probably people out there right now who are probably saying, no, that's not it, that's not it. But what it comes down to is all their eggs were in basket. They were even using their own network for their own communications. So if the mobile system went down, well, their own people could not contact each other. Their crisis management, the communications of notifying staff wasn't going to work because they couldn't reach them. They were all on the network that was down. So that was one. Another was the continuous communications with the public, finding different ways of letting the public know what was going on and what happened. I was one of those people who was affected by the outage. No TV, no internet, my phone, which has now changed, a different company, so that at least something continues on in case Rogers goes down here at home again. But they did not communicate. And because of it, because they had everything on one notice, people didn't know what was going on. Governments didn't know what was going on. Regulators had no idea what was happening. Millions and millions of people were completely left in the black, no pun intended. So one of the findings is to make sure that some of that is split in a separate network, a different router, a different mechanism of communicating so that they can still get their message across. This is what's happening and this is what we're doing about it. I know some people told me that there were messages left on other carriers and there were news reports about it. Well, guess what? I couldn't get any of that. So I had no idea what was going on. So one of the suggestions, and this is a big one, communications. I probably would have been a little bit more happy or a little with what was going on if I could get a message that told me what was going on and what was happening, but that never happened. So I was rather peeved with Rogers, and that's putting it very politely. The other item, another one that I found interesting, is there was a bit of a lax in their change management process. Where have we heard that before? That happens so many times. And I even see it right now in organizations. You do so much work, everything works all the time, everyone knows what they're doing. You become complacent. You see success is continuous, it's the norm. Yeah, but it doesn't take much to create issues and have problems. You still have to follow your change management processes, all the detail properly from step one to implementation and beyond. What happened to them, this outage happened at the sixth phase of a 7-phase initiative. Because the first 5 went well, there was a bit of a lackadaisical complacency when the 6th phase came along. And it turned out that they had removed some files They disabled a file that shouldn't have been disabled. And what happened? All the traffic was trying to go through one router. But if their change management process had been stable and followed rigorously through all the phases, maybe that risk would have been found. And then the outage wouldn't have happened. Or if there was, it would have been smaller and much easier to deal with. Also, talking with some of my IT friends, they also say, and this is in the report too, don't delete things. Not unless you are 100% sure and confirmed that there's not going to be a problem. Rogers deleted some files as well, and it made it very difficult to recreate things. When you're implementing, and I've gone through this before as well, you don't delete anything. You do a backup copy of what it is you're implementing or changing. You have two copies, the new one that you're implementing, but if there's a problem, you can back out and the old copy you put right back in. Don't delete that old copy, or you're recreating you're going to have to recreate work again, go back to backups and things like this. And that's something else that happened with Rogers. The other item they talk about is strengthening testing, meaning testing not just in one group. So ITDR does ITDR. Incident management may do something on their own. Emergency management does something on their own. All these groups, if there is a major event of some sort where all those different groups are involved, they all have to work together. So they can't test in isolation. They can't validate everything and assumptions and expectations and all the dependencies in isolation. Otherwise, you're building a house of cards. It's going to come crashing down when the real event occurs. And I think that is one of the most important pieces, because we're talking about that a lot right now in business continuity and in operational resilience. Test, 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 or exercise, exercise, exercise. People use the terms interchangeably. I tend to think of test as plans and processes. Exercise is people, their skills and their knowledge. Bringing all these different groups together. Even if it's a tabletop and it's mostly focused on IT, there's still things that are going to happen when you're restoring and recovering and rebuilding and reloading and whatever it is, wherever you are along that way. You're going to need help from the business, from a user, that they're seeing what they need to see, that they can do what they need to do at a certain point. You're going to need that validation. Incident management needs to be involved with what ITDR is happening so that they understand the communications, that they can do the proper reporting. They can talk with corporate communications and share statuses so the right messages go out to shareholders and the board of directors and the C-suite level. All that needs to happen. It can't happen in isolation. You wouldn't want to be trying to rebuild a server with a corporate communications person over your shoulder. Well, what the heck's going on? Where are we? What are we doing? That's not the time to figure all that out. So it's an interesting, take a look at the comments. I've got the link to the report that I read that's in there. So take a look, rather interesting. And I guess only time will tell if Rogers really has fixed this and we don't experience an outage like we did on July 8th, 2022. In the meantime, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.